Hey guys, I thought you might get a little bit tired of just reading my lesson plans online, and there's a couple things I wanted to talk to you about having to do with these assignments anyway. So I thought we'd do this via video this time. So, first of all, I wanted to say that when we first left school, I thought we were going to be out for a couple weeks. I went ahead and told you all to bring your textbooks, and at that time, I had every intention of just going on with your textbooks and the information in them. But the longer we were at home, the more I started thinking that, these were very unprecedented times, and it was a lot for you all to be going through, and that it was really kind of a teachable moment for us to sit back and think, okay, what does our faith have to do with these kind of circumstances? So that's why I decided to go ahead and change things up a little bit. And we're going to be studying, we're in the process of studying the book of Philippians, Paul's letter to the Philippians, especially talking about what it has to do with facing difficult situations in your life. Okay, the name of the program is Joy No Matter What. And we did last week, the first week was Joy in Every Circumstance. And you all wrote some beautiful reflections on the questions that I gave you. But there's a couple things that came up that I just wanted to go over with you. First of all, when we talk about joy no matter what, there seems to be a little bit of confusion as to exactly what joy is. Joy and having joy in every circumstance doesn't necessarily mean happiness. Okay, being joyful doesn't mean that you're happy about everything. You can feel joy even at the same time that you're feeling sadness. When I think about my mom and my dad and my little brother dying, okay, I was not happy at those times. I was very, very sorrowful. But I still had joy in the fact that I knew that they were doing well. I knew that they were, in heaven with God. So in that way, I felt joyful. Joy in this case is going to be a little bit more of a feeling of contentment, a feeling of security, maybe. That even though we may not be happy about circumstances that we're in, we know that God is with us in those circumstances and that He's going to take care of us in those circumstances. Excuse me. Something else I noticed in a lot of your writings was you talking about, I know that God has a plan in all this. And, I know that there's a plan, there's a reason for this. And that's okay as long as the idea of God having a plan doesn't mean that God caused this to happen. Okay, we know that God is all good and God is only capable of good. Evil comes into the world through human beings, through humanity as a whole. Okay, so we can't say that God caused this to happen. God allows it to happen because we have to have free will. And so we have to have the consequences of our actions as humanity. So while God allows it to happen, God does not cause bad things to happen. He allows us to live with the consequences of our actions as human beings. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out there. Now, last week we talked about joy in every circumstance. This week we're going on to the second chapter of Philippians, and it's joy in unity with others. Okay, so let's start a little bit on that. We talked about the Apostle Paul and how he is a key figure really in all the New Testament. He wrote more than half of it, I think. He started out as a tormentor of Christians. Okay, later he turned to the great preacher of the Gospels. He understood what it was like to live through lows and highs in his life. Remember, as he wrote most of the book of Philippians, okay, the letter to the Philippians, he was imprisoned as he wrote it. Even though he was sitting in a prison cell, though, he was still full of God's joy and peace. In the letter to the Philippian church, we see a side of Paul that is very compassionate, that is loving, that is encouraging. Each of us also have people in our lives who take the time to care and encourage us in our faith. And we also have the opportunity to reach out to others around us and make a difference in their lives. So as we continue to take a look at what Paul had to say to the Philippian church, we're reminded that even though we are in difficult circumstances, we can still have joy no matter what. I also know that it's much easier to say that than to do it, and some circumstances are more difficult than others. So we keep that in mind as we go through this. Why are we able to have joy even in difficult circumstances? Because true joy is an inner happiness, not superficial. It's an inner happiness that's unchanged by circumstances that we're facing. Remember, it's more a feeling of contentment or security or hope that things will turn out okay. Joy is part of God's character that's seen in us as we live our lives in Him. Even when we're facing uncertain times, we can overflow with a contagious joy that affects everybody around us, okay? So let's go on to the second chapter of Philippians. At the beginning of chapter 2, Paul encourages the church, okay, which is all followers of Jesus, to live in unity, to live in peace with each other. The church in Philippi seems to have been a very healthy, unified church, no major issues to report, but then again, no church is perfect. Paul wrote half of the New Testament, and most of his writings addressed problems, arguments, and disagreements within the church. Remember what Paul would do. He would go to a certain area, set up a church there, okay? Then he would put local people in charge of that church, and he would move on to other places and start churches there. And this is how he communicated with them, especially when they had problems, was writing these letters or epistles back and forth. Why did these early churches have so many different problems? Well, because we're human beings, and without God's help, we tend to be a little selfish. And the same was true in the early church. The early church really struggled sometimes to get along with each other. People came together as a church body, but there was a lot of disunity, and a real source of their problems stemmed from those who were holding on to their previous way or their previous religious beliefs before they became Christians. There were traditions from other religions that were carried over into their new life of following Jesus, and of course that was offensive then to some other Christians. Instead of allowing God sometimes to point these things out in their lives, like us, people were gossiping, slandering each other, and causing all kinds of problems and blaming other people for the problems in the church. So Paul wrote letters to churches to address the division that was happening among them. However, the book of Philippians is different. And you can tell this right off the bat when you read Philippians as compared to maybe the letter to the Corinthians. In the letter to the Corinthians, Paul's attitude is like, okay, I'm going to tell you people one more time. It's very, very forceful, and you can tell sometimes he's just sick of them. When you get to the Philippians, it's a whole different attitude. He's much more like, oh, my wonderful Philippians, because they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. They were living in unity together. And Paul wanted to take the time to encourage them to keep on doing what they were doing, and then to use them as examples to the other churches. If we look at the very opening of the second chapter of Philippians, is there any encouragement from belonging to Christ? Any comfort from his love? Any fellowship together in the Spirit? Are your hearts tender and compassionate? Then make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one mind and one purpose. These first two verses of Philippians, Paul's telling the church that their attitude is either a source of encouragement or discouragement. Paul wants them to know that harmony and unity among believers will bring him joy above everything else. How they served God together in unity, how they worked together, had more value than doing great acts for God or even giving huge offerings that were done with a bad attitude. Sincerity, purity of intention is what was important, and it's what the Philippians had. Differences in opinions and arguments can not only cause division in the church, but can also affect people's faith in God. After all, if we can't show love and understanding to fellow believers or to people that we agree with, how are we going to love the rest of the world, especially people that maybe we don't necessarily agree with or get along with? So then our attitudes are very, very important. Our attitudes can promote unity or they can start division. So right now, most of us are spending a lot of time with our families, because, we really don't have any other choice. And the situation might really be testing your patience with those you love. And again, that doesn't mean you don't love them. Okay, it just means that a lot of times when you're thrown together with people that you're not used to being with that much, okay, it can be hard. Uh, you're probably really missing the people that you can't see right now, okay? Your teammates, the people you're in clubs with, and all of your friends. What about, though, the people that you typically don't get along with? Okay, when you think about them, can you even remember maybe why you don't like them? What is it about them that caused the problem? Our perspective often changes when we can see things from the outside rather than from in the middle of a situation. So think about your family. Things might be tense because you're living every second with them. You're seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly side of everybody in your family, everybody that you live with. So instead of focusing on the things that are bothering you about them right now, realize that this is a time that God can really bring your family closer together. Allow God to change your attitude and see if that makes a difference. You might be dreaming of the day that you can see your friends again because you'll enjoy every moment. You won't take it for granted. And I have heard that over and over again in the reflections that you've written, that you really, really missed your friends, and it's really made you realize how important they are to you. Okay? Who knows? When you get back to school, when we get back to school, if we get back to school, even that person that really, really annoys you, you may find that you're able to overlook those things, that they weren't as important as they were before, and you may be even to be able to get along with them. Whether we're experiencing uncertain times or whether everything is normal, we should still maintain an attitude that reflects who God is, that God is love, and that's what our attitude should be. Right now, show yourself a little grace because, okay, you aren't perfect, where these are unprecedented circumstances. So if your temper flares a little or you get a little cranky, cut yourself a little break, okay? Say a quick little prayer for the grace to change that attitude because this is a tough time for everybody. But take the time to ask God what He is teaching you in this about being in unity with others. What can you learn in this situation? Paul encourages us in the second chapter of the Philippians to be like-minded. And that means to look for the things that we have in common, not the things that are tearing us apart. In the church, our shared belief in God unifies us, and that's a bond that's not easily broken. Okay? So as you think about these things today, these are the 3 questions I want you to ask yourself, and I want you to reflect on them, type them up, and have them into me by midnight. But let me be clear, I can tell when you've answered these questions and you haven't done any of the reading. Okay, so please read through the scripture first. It's nice to take a little bit of time. By the end of this, there'll be one book of the Bible that you'll be pretty well versed in. So take advantage of it, okay? It can't hurt anything, and it's good during these kind of times to sit back and reflect on these things. You have a lot of time to think. Let's take advantage of that, okay? So here's the first question I want you to ask yourself. How is your family getting along right now? Okay, and what's driving you crazy about them? Now understand, for each of these questions, this is a short paragraph. These are not one-line answers, okay? So think about them. So that first one again is, how is your family getting along right now? And what's driving you crazy about them? Second question, in what way does your attitude affect your actions? In what way does your attitude affect your actions? And the third question I want you to answer is, what can you do to bring unity to your family right now? Look, I don't care. In circumstances like this, even the happiest, most loving family, there is going to be tense times, okay? I frankly can't imagine what it's like to be a mom and a dad living at home with kids, that the mom and dad are both supposed to be working from home. The kids are supposed to be doing their schoolwork from home, besides all the normal family things that are going on, taking care of the house, doing laundry, cooking. I can't imagine what some of these family situations are like. So it's not easy for anyone right now in this situation, regardless of how well your family gets along. And remember, all families have a little bit of dysfunction here and there, okay? So it's not just you all. So the third question then, what can you do to bring unity to your family right now? Okay, that's all we're going to do for today. I want you to type up your reflections to those 3 questions and put them in homework job, okay? I hope you all are doing well. I've got to say, don't take this the wrong way. I missed you more than I thought I would. I thought, yeah, at the beginning, a week or two off, this wouldn't be so bad. But I would really much, much rather be in the classroom with you. I know this online learning is kind of hard for everybody. So let's give each other a break. Understand that while I'm doing this, I'm watching my two grandsons during the day, doing most of my schoolwork at night. I know that a lot of you are kind of in the same situation, juggling several different things. I'm going to give you all a break, okay? When I say I want it in by midnight, if you can't get it in for whatever reason, give me a call, shoot me a text, and let me know what the problem is. And at the same time, if I don't have your grades right up or I don't answer your emails immediately, okay, it's because I got a lot going on here too, all right? But let's go ahead. Make sure you watch morning prayer, especially on Fridays. The seniors are leading that now, and that's been really nice. Listening to morning prayer, it's something that unifies us, okay? And stay healthy, keep yourselves busy, stay happy, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.